Welcome back to Tribe Talks with Archer Point Retail. Today, our retail experts, Kayla Magnan and Thomas Nielsen, are going to talk about 5 ways that retailers are preparing for the next possible wave of shutdowns. Let's go ahead and begin and turn it over to you, Kayla.
Thanks, Suzanne. Hi again, everyone. If you've been with us through our Tribe Talk series, you would have heard in the last Tribe Talk webinar our discussions of this pandemic's impact on retail evolution and how we can learn from these recent pivoting experiences. While many of us have experienced a lot of this impact similarly, we do want to ask for some quick feedback with a poll. Select all option on the screen. So what has been the most challenging part of this pivoting journey? Please select all that apply. And just as suspected, many retailers, regardless of industry or location, are experiencing all of these same challenges. And many of these topics we have covered in more detail throughout all of our sessions, such as last webinar, Thomas and I outlined some key objectives to help identify short, mid, and long-term actions or goals to keep your business thriving through times of crisis. But now many are thinking, and maybe some are even experiencing, a possible second wave of shutdowns. So reflecting on lessons learned from those previous temporary closures, Thomas, how do we prepare? Maybe you can give us a quick 15-second, 30-word synopsis on lessons learned for crisis preparation?
Yeah, sure, Kayla, not a problem. Let me just start out by saying thank you to Kayla and Suzanne for allowing me to participate in these webinars. It is, as you know, greatly appreciated. And hi, everyone. As you can see, I'm not sitting back in my New York department. I'm actually in Europe this week, visiting family, but also visiting some of our customers here. And Kayla, back to your question. Yeah, I can do that very simply, actually. And I think I can do it in less than 30 words. So here we go. Let me try it out. So I think the retailers can easily prepare by just focusing on the short term. What is at hand? Just take a few examples from the poll, like let's check the supply chain management. We mentioned in our last webinar, what do I need to shift with my inventory? What is on hand? What do I need to try and order? What did we budget for or even put on order that we should consider canceling now? Or you should also think about reaching out to your vendor or vendors and they still can deliver merchandise to you and have a conversation about what do I normally not order and what should I be ordering. That's the kind of conversations I would suggest that you're having right now.
That's definitely something easy to remember. What do I need to do right now to move through this obstacle? But Thomas, there's no doubt that this impact is not going to be bounced back from quickly, which then is going to impact that long-term goal. I mean, even just a slight altering of the short-term action could then change the long-term vision. But now we're factoring in the reality of what we're dealing with, which is much more uncertainty and much more unpredictability.
Yeah, that's right, Kayla. I don't think it's going to bounce back quickly. Retailers are having to focus on the short-term issues while still thinking about what's ahead, which is not different than pre-pandemic, but it's much more of a challenge now. Forecasting always has variables, but just as you mentioned, these times are more uncertain and more unpredictable than we have ever encountered before.
Okay, so retailers should still keep an eye towards that long-term vision, but to tackle through these crisis challenges, we must take action on those short-term needs. Makes complete sense. Now, I'm a fan of reflecting on recent events, and I think we can definitely learn from how we saw retailers responding to this rapid erratic behavior, which was no easy feat, but I think there were some pretty impressive examples of innovation amidst the chaos. Would you agree here?
Yeah, absolutely. What we saw when we talked to our retailers, Kayla, we obviously saw some struggles for sure, but we also saw very creative innovations in every industry and in every country we talked to our retailers in. The most impressive is just the sheer aggressive advancements to technology in departments not yet considering these tools. Contactless payments to contactless shopping, or even just walk out shopping, buy online, pick up in store or curbside in every industry. Delivery drones and robotics, and not just delivery bots for home deliveries, but in hospitality. We saw robotic wait staff and room service robots. We saw and we're still seeing video and live tutorials. Maybe that's from your chef from the meal kit you just subscribed to, or it could be from the fitness instructor, your hairstylist, your real estate agent, could be teachers, and so on. Many working with virtual sessions, and we're even seeing one-on-one virtual appointments. Could be doctor visits, follow-up appointments, or even therapy sessions. And think about this. All this came from our normal daily lives, which consist of needing to be around and with many other people. But now we need to do it without interacting with these people. Safety has and will remain number one priority for retailers, safety for the employees and safety for the customers.
Right. And just thinking back on those objectives from last session, how do you prepare for questionable tomorrows with an unsafe workforce or an unsafe retail environment?
Yeah, that's true. That also covers some of the organization stability we discussed, since you need to utilize labor force for other demands. Which leads me into the second priority. I know our session stated that we would discuss 5 lessons learned, so let me earmark this as the second lesson. The second lesson here would be the adapted workforce or the workplace. Much of the safety protocol was initially to avoid in-person contact altogether, where many would think the easy action is simply just whomever can should be working from home. But now we have a whole new pile of challenges that retailers never had to consider before. So let me give you a couple of examples here. We are relying on home internet connections, which is being pulled from every user in the household. It could be any family member or any other stay-at-home members. Also, we are facing sensitivity with personal devices accessing company data. And then there's seemingly infinite distractions. Paying for office spaces that's now unoccupied. That is just to name a few of the immediate roadblocks with working from home. But then there is where the balance of short-term and long-term objectives need to coincide. So what would that be? Well, should I consider purchasing some company devices? Should I offer internet allowances? Hire more permanent workers that could be local or overseas or domestically, another state? Should I investigate satellite office space and so on? Many questions there.
And just like you said, keeping in mind the long term, but really focusing on that short term. And this could apply to the new service types offerings that impact the workplace, in addition to that work from home transition. For example, you mentioned curbside pickup. If retailers didn't have curbside before, they would need the workforce workspace and then address if it's a short-term service or a long-term offering that would then need to be incorporated into that business plan and store footprint. And this now has me thinking about another area that was disrupted, and I think we could probably all agree on we can learn from, is the retailer's online presence. I frequently found myself searching for a retailer's website and primarily looking for those online ordering options with curbside and delivery. But let's take it a broader step out, and let's say a retailer's omni-channel engagement had a drastic impact. Thomas, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I definitely have a few thoughts there. Let's call this the third lesson because it has never been more vital or crucial for the retailers to be on the consumer's preferred platform. That is their preferred device. So what do I mean? It could be a phone, computer, a specific app or apps, which is providing clear communications and seamless experiences. Consumers are more likely than ever actually to begin their shopping journey online. They have the ability to do researching, gather information, evidence, to make what they feel is the right and the best purchase for them. Retailers and brands can easily leave shoppers, customers, frustrated when they have disconnected channels. What do I mean with disconnected channels? Well, Kayla, if I have a price on my website and I call over to the store, or I walk to the store and I see it's on sale, or even worse, it's a much higher price than what the website was stating. Or I call the store and I ask about a specific product and they say it's out of stock, but their e-commerce platform states it's actually in stock. That is just a few examples of where the customers and our shoppers would leave frustrated with a disconnected channel or channels.
And just focusing on the short term here, as an example, maybe retailers can manually just ensure prices and promotions are consistent across each channel. And then that long-term vision could be unifying those platforms, which either is developing integrations to and from each of those solutions or simply upgrading to a single solution like LS Central, which will give you centralized management of all of that data that flows across any of your sales channels.
Correct, Kayla, but please don't forget the engagement part here. Not just consistent communication and seamless channel experiences. That's not enough these days. Customers want to feel heard and feel important. Social media have seen a huge increase in the ability to share brand culture and message. We see social media used for marketing and promotion, but also to actively engage with the customers. Create polls, use hashtags, do live events, and interact with the chat audience. Some of our customers and some of the customers are taking it a step further. Host giveaways, share exclusive items for posting, resharing, or commenting.
And now that you bring it up, something that influences how I perceive a brand online is when I'm looking through the reviews and I find no feedback from the brand. I think just a simple response, glad you liked our product, appreciate your business, maybe even use this time to refer them to a how-to video or a tips and trick blog. Just small details like that can help me believe it's not a paid for positive review, but the company also wants to ensure their customers get the most out of their purchase. And I would say it even goes more so for those negative reviews, since that's not only an opportunity to win back that frustrated customer, but show other customers that you do care about your customers. A simple, we're sorry our product was not up to your standards, please send us a direct message and we'll try to make this right. And not to mention just how exciting it is when a brand likes or reshares your post as a consumer. I know when it happens to me, it makes me want to be more active on social media with those brands that I'm shopping at. And all of this could be a responsibility for your existing customer service team, or it could create a whole new role or department for utilizing staff in the short term and taking the long term to hire a more permanent workforce or even investigate a solution to help centralize or even automate these processes. We've seen many retailers experimenting with and even implementing chatbots to successfully increase customer engagement and satisfaction. But Thomas, let me ask you something here. I see many retailers probably still struggling with this one. They had to furlough staff or lay off a bunch of staff. Now they can't hire workers to help with this customer engagement, or just can't provide adequate staffing for departments that are staff low and demand high right now.
Yeah, Kayla, that's a very good question. And it points perfectly to the fourth lesson. And that's what we here at Archer Point Retail call strategic partnership and business relationship. This is an area we saw retailers and brands, even if normally seen as competitors, they were joining forces. They were joining forces to withstand this impact. Restaurants are sharing resources. They were sharing raw and finished products. They were collaborating on menus, but also staffing resources. For example, the breakfast cafes connecting with local diner spots for workers. Also partnering with grocers and focusing on available delivery platforms like Uber Eats and Grubhub. Remember, it doesn't hurt to reach out to other companies to creatively collaborate, but also think about how to leverage your competition. And Kayla, we heard also when we were calling our retailers, how the retailers was reaching out to their vendors and leveraging those relationships to get special offer, better arrangement, better terms, better delivery terms, all just to get a better deal. And get even more creative and connect with businesses that is not like yours. Share promotion, buy at this store, receive X percentage in another store, exchange gifts. So when client buys this item in store, in a specific store, they receive a gift that is from your stores, and discuss selling the merchandise.
Usually I'm the creative one, Thomas. Those are really good ideas, and it's a perfect time to be creative and experiment with something new. Naturally, those business long-term relationships may yield more flexibility in IOU terms or other special arrangements. But even those other connections you mentioned that seem like a short-term action could be services or partnerships that develop into long-term offerings too. Now, while we continue navigating these unpredictable and vastly changing trends in consumer behaviors, I think it's going to be these unique creatives like unconventional business partnerships that are small steps to helping provide an ability to possibly better forecast during these disruptive times. Just always keeping in mind your simple tip you shared in the beginning, tackle the immediate and incorporate it into the long term. So with our lessons on safety, workplace adapting, omni-channel engagement, and now business partnerships. That's just 4. We mentioned 5. So Thomas, what's that 5th lesson?
Good on, Kayla. Yeah, you're definitely on to me. But I think you just mentioned it, Kayla. The vastly changing trends and behaviors. Kayla, I don't want any of our retailers to forget how important it is to analyze the current trends. With this pandemic, we saw many variations of buying behaviors, and I've been across the spectrum, Kayla, from panic buying to emotional buying. And I think we all can relate to that on some level. And across the board, a huge surge with online ordering services. These online ordering services massively disrupted the supply chain management everywhere around the world. But being able to identify these trends almost immediately will allow you to take advantage of the demand and keep your revenue flowing. And as we mentioned before, I think it was our first Tribe Talk, equipping your business and team with the right technology can easily dictate the success or failure of your retail pivot. Modern technology, well, I believe modern technologies can provide an insight to patterns that will help you show areas that may become disrupted or where you can provide more attention to balance the upcoming requests.
And taking a short-term, long-term approach here, we mentioned retailers being able to rotate or adjust their products and vendors by asking vendors they were still able to produce and ship, what's available and when can I receive it, or reaching out to vendors you've used once or never used before. And here we saw retailers leveraging that panic buying behavior, incorporating those high demand items if they didn't offer them before, like safety equipment and shelf staple items, where I would see adding in those immediate items being an action for the short term, and the long term may not be so excessive inventory on them, or depending on how this continues, those may become now permanent items in the list. We saw retailers also taking advantage of that emotional buying, adding various entertainment items, promoting DIY, craft materials, other supplies for around the house, which again, I see more for the short term, and that long term is going to depend on continuation or discontinuation of the virus severity. But we did have retailers identify some various item sales and quickly adjust the placement of those within their stores to better suit those customers, such as placing those high demand items like the emotional purchases right near the front of the store or right by the cash registers, or the panic buying items, keeping those safety consumables accessible only by associate. That'll help better distribute and align the demand in the inventory.
Right, and we're all hoping for better forecast abilities. Just some glimpse of an accurate prediction, which we may not receive 100% prediction on, but we can at least report on these trends, analyze these behaviors with a powerful and even intelligent reporting tool. We have mentioned in our last session, Kayla, and previous Tribe Talks, how important and how vital it is to measure your KPIs during times of disruption. The audience have heard us mention Power BI before, but it's with an interactive reporting tool like that where these trends and behaviors can quickly be spotted and acted on.
And I'm thinking you could even take a short-term, long-term approach here too. If I was a retailer struggling during this time, the last thing I need to consider now is a complex reporting tool to learn to navigate to help me through this. So short-term, use the reports I'm familiar with. Instead of running them weekly, run them daily, or instead of 3 times a day, run them 3 times a day instead of once a day. You could create a new report or just measure what you normally do with a different filter. Then long-term could be integrating with those mentioned intelligent reporting tools.
Yeah, Kayla, for sure. You can take a short-term and long-term approach. And while Power BI is a complex in its sense of it has many different parts and connected parts, it is not complex in the sense of installation and setup. However long it normally takes you to download an app from a web store or from any website and install it on your computer desktop, plus maybe an hour to load in some templates and another 45 minutes for an overview training. By then, you quickly have visual reports that you can easily filter on and dive into your data. And not to mention the extended capability by leveraging Microsoft's entire Power Platform to reopen safely.
So are you saying no longer are the multiple days spent creating just one new report or waiting weeks and months for development to create a sophisticated automated process for my retail business?
That's exactly what I'm trying to say here, Kayla. The Power Platform is quick to set up and even quicker to start. There's a number of reports, dashboards, connectors, templates ready and available. Or of course, you can easily create your own by using the simple drag and drop interfaces. So to recap here, thinking about the lessons learned in this session on safety, adapted workplace, omni-channel engagement, business partnerships, and trends, I want to ask you, the retailers, how is your technology impacting your business productivity?
Wow, that's a really great question, and I think we should probably end on that, Thomas. So let's wrap up the time today and hand it back over to Suzanne for questions. I really encourage the retailers to think about that question you just said. How are your current technologies impacting your business productivity?
And don't forget to type your questions in the questions pane of your GoToWebinar console or your response to that question. We did have a few come in. First one is, how do we analyze trends? And is there a certain KPI we should be measuring?
Are you going to take that one, Kayla?
Yeah, I'll take it first. I think maybe the obvious answer, just kind of pay attention to what's going on. There's definitely websites that can help track and analyze many different behaviors and applications that help you do this, but panic buying, in my opinion, I think can pretty be easily identified or even semi-forecasted. I'm thinking of like pre-pandemic when a weather incident happened, like a snowstorm was being predicted in St. Louis. Everyone's rushing to the stores to get eggs, bread, and milk. So in a pandemic buying situation, it's going to depend if you already offer those or if you still need to get those items, but it's pretty easy to guess that those cleaning supplies are going to be high demand. Health and safety consumables, those are all going to be very panic buying. And we mentioned emotional buying as well as, you know, something to analyze as a trend. But I think maybe with that, you could probably consider an artificial intelligence tool. They could dive into the consumer from a member's perspective. But again, just paying attention to what's going on. Like people are being asked to stay at home. Retailers can offer games and entertainment, household items like we mentioned. And then last comment on the emotional piece, I'm seeing ads where we all see the emotional marketing. Ads are now being centered around this new normal of being home. So we're seeing school ads being in more comfy clothes or even PJs. Fashion retailers are putting more relaxed type outfits, whether it's sweatpants or leggings or even slippers, into their back to school shopping ads and their floor sets. So pay attention to what's going on, but there are some tools out there.
I love it. I love it. But can I just add, and I like the answer there, Kayla, a lot, but as far as the KPIs, they can greatly vary for industry and business. So feel free to give me a call, or Kayla, or just contact us, and I would like to discuss your current KPIs and what other possible metrics that we see in the industry. But if I have to give you some common standard ones that goes through all the industries in retail and hospitality is category sales at a certain time of the day, traffic versus transactions, high performing lanes, high performing staff, and so on. Another thing that's always interesting in seeing is your 80-20 inventory performance. I like to see also what core items are we selling and what upsell items are we selling in certain times, and that will help you with inventory as well for certain peak time of the year.
All right, thank you both. Next question, what is the Microsoft Power Platform?
Oh, that's an excellent question. I'll take that, Kayla, and then jump in if I'm losing anything. So the Microsoft Power Platform actually consists of 4 products. It's the Power Virtual Agents, which it allows you, for the users out there that's already using Microsoft Teams, it allows you to extend the capabilities there. That's the short answer of that. It is pretty nice and pretty powerful. You should look it up. Power Automate helps you automate anything from the Office and legacy terminals applications. And one way to use Power Automate is approval rules. So we have maybe an approval engine inside an ERP, but here we can now funnel all of it through an external engine that will allow you to make approval or request approvals, which can flow back into your ERP and your POS system. So it allows an external engine to sit outside and being fed information, and there you can set up the various approval rules. And the approval rules is just one example. The Power Apps, which is also part of it, is aimed for developers to help you build and deploy specific components on applications. And we have seen different ones out there. There was inventory apps out there. You could scan a shelf and it would actually know how to count how many pieces there was on a shelf. And lastly, the Power BI, and we have mentioned Power BI so many times before, but it is a powerful interacting reporting tool. Did I forget anything, Kayla?
Other than, I think these, you mentioned it, but just to restate, these, it may be for applications that's in this Power product, but I think the idea is to digitally transform all of the data in your business system. So whether that's Business Central, LS Central, any of the apps you added from Microsoft's App Source, or even external systems like weather forecast, it all should be, you know, roped into one report, or at least roped into one system so you can easily measure on it.
Good one.
Yeah, possibilities are endless with the Power Platform. Gives you a lot of flexibility in your business. And I'll include that in our follow-up email. Last question, with disruptions of supply chain across the globe, how do we position ourselves to be ahead of the delays?
Yeah. So how much time do we have here on this call? Because I can talk about that for hours. As everybody knows, it's a much bigger topic here and then I can answer here. But so what I would suggest is drop me a line. I would like to have a conversation offline. And although I would like to invite you to the next webinar, which is on the 17th of September, where we'll discuss some strategies to better manage your supply chain and your replenishment. Kayla, anything there?
We could highlight a few of the things to consider for supply chain management, kind of previewing into the next webinar, but your suppliers, how you're also merchandising and distributing. That goes into the flow and the logistics, which takes you to fulfillment, which then takes us to replenishment, where then you can get even more granular, of course. But again, I encourage everyone to come to the next Tribe Talk or schedule an appointment with us to talk even further.
Excellent. Thank you both. Thank you everybody for your questions today and your time with us. Don't forget to register. I've posted that link in the chat. It's also, you can also visit our events page on our archerpoint.com website under resources to register for our next Tribe Talk Retail, where we will build on our last tip today and discuss how retailers are adapting their supply chain and replenishment strategy. So thanks for that question. Thank you, Thomas. Thank you, Kayla. And I hope you all have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.